the body keeps the score,
Yes.
and
Yes.
our trauma gets stuck in our cells.
Mm-hmm.
It gets stuck in our brain. I call it like having a filing cabinet with all of your trauma in there. And we shut it away thinking that if I don't deal with it or it doesn't come up, I'm okay. But we don't understand that our body allows it to come up in several different ways. So what EMDR really does is it allows us to tap into those repressed memories and those repressed traumas and triggers and move them up to where you can, kind of like a street sweeper. You go in, you bring them up, and it sweeps it out, and then you could replace it with something that's more positive. Like, I survived this, or I'm not in fear of this, or this isn't going to happen to me again.
Or I am lovable.
Or I am lovable. Yeah, absolutely. For
So
sure.
my experience, and I think some people, I think a lot of the probably the biggest fear when it comes to people starting their healing journey is reliving what they've experienced, right? And the truth is, when we go through our triggers, we're actually reliving that moment in our body and in our brain. So we're already kind of reliving it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did not experience reliving it necessarily with EMDR. Like, I didn't get all the negative sensations. How it helped me is I did go back and kind of relive stuff, but I became empowered.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is that is that
Absolutely.
is that true? Because I feel like my experience might be different than everybody else's. I don't know.
So here's the thing, right? When we have trauma, our trauma, like I said, stays with us, right? So our trauma will come up in different ways. When we
Yeah.
get triggered, for instance, I've done EMDR with a client who got into a car accident, was afraid to drive. We did sessions of EMDR. I think there was a total of 4, and she reported back to me she was able to drive. So here's the thing, we're never going to not have to go into a vehicle to get someplace.
Right.
So even if your feelings do come up or your triggers do come up, they're going to come up in your life regardless.
Correct.
You
Yeah. Oh,
know?
yeah. And they're going to catch you off guard usually too.
Hmm. And maybe not to the magnitude that it was happening in the initial, trauma, but
Right.
it's still going to show up in some way. It could show up
Hmm.
in irritability, it can show up in anxiety, depression. I tell my clients it shows up sideways. We're not expecting it.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of like the rug gets pulled out from under you.
Hmm.
And how I describe when I get triggered, how I've learned to understand the difference between me just reacting or me being triggered
Hmm.
is I feel like I go from zero to over the top in an instant. And my
Hmm.
reaction that I want to give or my response doesn't really line up with what's going on. It's usually over the top,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Absolutely. So that's your body is responding. So that's where the body keeps the score. Your body is responding to a similar feeling to being triggered by that episode or that incident. What I like to do with my clients in the beginning is we identify a safe place, right? And
Right.
you can utilize
Yeah.
this with anybody in therapy, regardless if you're going to do EMDR with them or not. So you have that safe place to go to if it gets too heavy. You
Hmm.
know, we want to bring it up so we can bring it out so we could walk through it. Because
Right.
if we don't walk through it, then it's always going to show up in our lives at the most inopportune times.
Yeah, really inconvenient. It's really
Yes.
inconvenient. So tell us then, how does EMDR work to help the brain process our trauma differently than like the traditional talk therapy? Because I know, and I talk about there's a place for talk therapy, but when it
Hmm.
comes to trauma healing, it is so important. I can't say it enough to go through trauma therapy and use one of these modalities or more than one that's going to help you.
Hmm.
But trauma therapy is very different. But if you can explain that to us.
So when we reprocess traumatic memories, the process is the brain reproducing the traumatic memory. It allows us to integrate the experience in a way that reduces the emotional intensity and the negative beliefs associated with it. So when we bring it up, we're asking, where were you? What does it look like around you? So we're putting you in that subconscious state,
Mm-hmm.
almost like hypnosis. I tell my clients because when you tell them EMDR, they're like, "What is that?" Right? They don't know. It's almost like a state where we take you back to that experience where the trauma took place, and you're bringing up all of those emotions, and you're rating how it's coming up for you, right? And what you tell yourself about you as a person based off of what took place. And then we're starting to go through this emotion, right? And some people break down, some people cry, some people,
Mm-hmm.
they're really there with that
Yeah.
emotion. And then you start to see it decrease and decrease and decrease and decrease. The bilateral stim is amazing because it's really, like I say, street sweeper. It really is sweeping it. It's like cleaning up that memory. It's cleaning up that memory and cleaning it out so that we can replace it with something more positive. So yeah, you're bringing up that trauma. You
Mm-hmm.
are, and that's uncomfortable for some people, but I feel as though if you're in therapy and you've had a traumatic experience, you no longer want to live like that anymore.